Hey there, welcome back to this channel. It's Brian Daniel from Bwave ICT, and in today's video, we'll be talking about the structure of the C programming language. So looking at our codes right here, you can see that this was exactly the first lines of code we wrote, and these lines of code on your screen were from our previous video. We wrote this code to test if GCC has been installed and if we are all set up to write our C programming language. And now it's time to look at what this code do and the general structure of the C programming language. So you can see quite a couple of things in this code here. And the first one is the very first line, which has the include stdio.h. Basically, what's that? Well, that's simply a header file. So in C, you have the header files. And what are header files in C? It's just, as the name implies, a directive that tells the compiler to include something. And in this case, it's the standard input-output header file. Well, you don't have to memorize that, stdio for short. But why are we telling the compiler to include this? Or why are we having a header file? That's because we want to use some of the things from the header file. So it's more like giving credits or calling some functions or some things from this file that we are going to use in our C program. If we don't call the functions, or if we don't call these things we want to include, then if we try to run our code, it would obviously give us warnings or even errors. And so that's why we have header files. It's depending on what you want to use in your code that you call different kinds of header files. And basically, that's it for header files. Most commonly, you always want to include the stdio.h. And why is that? Because it has functions like printf and scanf, things we'll talk about later on. But apart from this line 1 that is the header file, you can see that in line 3 we have this int main. So what exactly is int main and why do we have bracket after the main? Well, this is a function. Anywhere you see main, it means that that's the starting point of the program. So the main function is the starting point of the program, meaning once we hit GCC and then the name of this file, the compiler starts reading from the main function. It starts reading everything we wrote in our code from this main function. And so that's why we have the int main here as the starting point of our program. So if I come here now, this little arrow by my line 3, if I close this, you can see that everything inside line 4, 5, 6, everything inside this main function sort of like disappeared or collapsed. And why is that so? Because in a function, you have to start and end a function with these curly braces here. And so anything inside the function are basically statements. And so when we compile this code, we would be telling the compiler, say, hey, look, compile everything inside this function, inside the main function. So all our programs, all our codes would be written in the main function for now. So that's it about the main function. Basically, once we want to write code, we have the int main, and that's the main function to start writing our codes. That's the point where the compiler starts executing from. But we also have a couple of things here. For example, this printf. So what exactly is the printf? This is called a statement, okay? And this is a printf function. Now, recall earlier I said in the line 1, we have the include stdio.h, and the stdio.h is a header file. We are including it because we want to use something from inside that header file. And this is what we want to use from inside the header file, this printf function. In C, you can't just come and write, let's say here, I cannot just write display. right? And then put brackets. If I try to run this code, it's obviously going to give me errors. But I can write printf. Why is that so? Because I've included stdio.h. So it turns out that there's a whole lot of functions that are inside this stdio.h, and if I want to use any one, I would simply include stdio.h and call it. So what's the work of this printf function? Basically, the printf function just prints something out to the screen. That's why if I compile this code, so I'm going to open my terminal here, and we would be compiling this code together. So on your terminal, you could follow me and compile. Just say GCC to compile like we did in the previous video. And then the name of this file is hello-world.c. So I would say hello_world.c. Now, I'm going to press space and then -o, and I'm going to call this hello world. So what have I just done here? I'm saying GCC compile this hello world.c and turn it to a file that I would call hello world only. Okay, so if we don't use the -o hello world, when this file compiles, it's going to give it its own name basically. But now I'm saying name this compiled file hello world, not your own name. Okay, now I can hit enter, and now I can run the compiled file. So /hello world, hello_world, just like this, /hello world, and press enter. We have hello world on the screen. Now, why did I compile this code? To show you that the printf function basically prints something out to the screen. You can see that every other thing we wrote not in the printf function does not appear on the screen. But the printf function, everything inside it appears on the screen. And so let's talk about the things inside the printf function. We can see that we have, apart from this hello world, we have like double brackets, and basically that's the syntax. I can't just come here and write hello world. If I do that and try to compile this code, I would have errors. Errors we'll talk about shortly. So to be able to write something inside the printf function, or to be able to display something in the screen using the printf function, I must first of all put my double quotations, and then I can write anything like hello and then your name. So I'm going to write hello Bwave here. And if I run this code, it's going to run. So I'm going to recompile it by still typing gcc hello world.c and then the output file just like this. And it's done compiling. So I will type in hello_world at this point. Not hello world.c again, but instead just hello world, and hit enter, and we have hello Bwave on the screen. Now you will notice that previously I added this /n. What exactly is this? This is a new line. What is a new line? It's just moving what you have on one line to the other line. So that's a new line, basically bringing what you have on one line to the other line. How? Let's say we want to put hello and Bwave in a different line. So I'm going to come here now and say hello new line, and this /n, and then say Bwave. If we go ahead and compile this using gcc hello world.c hello, press enter, and let's run our file back hello world, we can see hello on one line and Bwave on the other line. So this is how new lines work. With new line, you're bringing something down to the other line. But if I remove the new line now and recompile this code and then run it, you can see we have hello Bwave on the same line. So it's just a new line. If you want to separate things from one line to the other line, you have to use the new line tag. Hope you're understanding it so far. If you have any questions, the comment is well open and would answer them as soon as we receive your questions. If you're enjoying this video, like, hit the subscribe button and leave a positive comment to tell the YouTube algorithm that you are enjoying this video. It would help this video reach more people and together form a brilliant community to learn the C programming language. Okay, next we have after this function, this printf function, we then have a return 0. And if you note, in the last code we wrote, I deliberately left out the return 0, but all of a sudden I'm having this return 0. This return 0 basically is a return statement, and 0 means that we encountered no errors whatsoever. So at the end of our program, we put a return statement to say, hey, this function is returning nothing. More on the return statements later when we talk about functions, but for now you can just assume that if everything goes well, our function will return 0. Just take it like it's returning 0 errors, and then if there is a problem, it's going to return with a status of 1, meaning there's an error. So 0 for no error, 1 for an error. For now, just take it like that. Later on, when we talk more about functions, we'll explain why we have ints here and how these return statements can help us. It is also possible that you write your C programs like this and say void and have no return statements. So I can write my C programs void main and just go ahead and write printf. It's all up to you what you decide to write, and all of them are correct. So I'm going to leave this one like this for now, and basically that's it for the first lines of code we've written. So what have we just said? We have our include statements, which is the header file. We have our main function, and in this main function, anything we write inside these curly braces would be read and compiled by the compiler, and it would give us a result. Our printf statements print out something to the terminal that we can see here. For example, hello Bwave. You could put your name, that's totally fine. And then our return statement shows that everything we had was and is a success. You can clearly see there's something else that you can see on your screens, but I've not talked about today. Let me minimize my terminal, and that's all these things we are seeing here written in green. And then what exactly are they? Well, not to worry at all, these are comments in C. And then we have two types of comments. Comments is a generally good practice for your code because it helps people understand what you're trying to do. For example, looking at these comments here, you can see that in the line 1, I just wrote header file. So even without being told, you know that, okay, line 1 is the header file. Line 2 is the main function. Line 3 is the printf function. And line 4, and then line 8 is the return statement. So comments in all programming language serve the same purpose. Help people understand what's going on in your code and help you yourself understand what's going on in your code. We have two types of comments, and this is the first one, a single line comment, and then the second one is the multi-line comments. So how do these comments work? This is a single line comment, and it comments one line, or as you can see, it's just anything you write after the comments. But if you come to the next line and you write things, you can see that these things I've just written now are not commented. That's because we do not have a multi-line comment. But here, using this type of comment, we can come to the next line and everything we write will still be commented. Now, VS Code makes it so that anything that's a comment would display in green. And if I remove these comments now, you can see it's no longer displaying in green. So this is comments, and Now you've known what comment is. The next code you're writing, or even when you're practicing, try to include comments. Both single line comment and multi-line comment have various purposes, but that's comments in C. Well, have you ever experienced this? You're writing a code, maybe you're doing exactly as I'm doing as you're watching on the video, and then once you try to compile your code, you hit GCC and then the file name, press enter, you see series of errors. You don't know what they are, you don't know how to fix them, you don't know why they are there. Have you ever experienced something like that? Well, that's very, very common. All programmers experience that, especially when learning how to code. In my next video, I would be telling you about debugging in C. That is, how to fix these errors when you get them and what these errors mean. Stay tuned and make sure you're tuned in for the next video. I'll see you in the next video that talks about debugging in C. Until then, stay safe, and hey, before you go, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you have any questions, as always, send them down in the comments below, and I would answer as soon as I see them.